Andrew is a digital marketer. He's a host of several podcasts, world traveler, and just fanatic in the fitness.
People are just becoming more aware how the world really works. They're realizing how manipulative advertising can be. They're realizing that people can make fake reviews on a website and lie about what the product really is.
Hello to everyone, Anatoliy is here, Ecom Business Podcast is here, and today one of the guests, as well one of my great friends, Andrew Deitch, he is here, and I will explain to him. Just before that, Andrew, what's up, man? How are you doing?
Good, man. Just
Good.
Here in rainy Atlanta, Georgia.
Let me just, guys, explain you who is this beautiful and amazing guy who is in front of me. Andrew is a digital marketer. He's a host of several podcasts, world traveler, and just fanatic in the fitness. I know him from the marketing side. I know him from the media agency side. I know him from different professional perspectives, but in the fitness, he a real fanatic, seriously. And whatever he was doing online, he was made over 1 billion views on the videos cut it out there on different social media platforms. And only in 18 months in this 4Media as a marketing director, he made thousands of the different piece of content for 100 plus e-commerce stores. And that's not all. He is speaker. He's speaking to several stages and attending. Next month is going to be agency founders. And he is always sharing a lot of value about the content, how you guys supposed to make the hooks on the content, what's working in our days. And it's exactly what we're going to be speaking today with Andrew. Andrew, would you love to share with us all your knowledge you have, because I have something I really want to ask you to make sure that the guys and girls who are listening gonna get the most value from it.
I'm an open book. You can ask me whatever you want. I'm not a believer in hoarding knowledge. I don't like to hide things. I share freely because at the end of the day, it's all about execution. I can say whatever I want, but at the end of the day, you got to go out and do it. So yeah, I'm ready and I'm excited to chat today.
Awesome, bro. And in your words, there was one golden point. You can share everything what you know, all the golden nuggets, but it doesn't mean that someone will be able to repeat that by himself instantly. When I start implementing what you'll share, I would have most probably tens of questions on the go, like, oh my God, what about this? What about that? Oh, yeah, he explained correct, but what about the small pieces of this and that? So yeah, sharing the knowledge in our days, I believe it's valuable for yourself to be a better person, to deliver some kind of great results for the people who are listening. And in the same time, nobody can't repeat your success. Maybe someone can do even better, but still they will have a lot of questions on the way to the particular goals which they have in front of them.
Totally. I think also a lot of podcasts and audiobooks and stuff, they're good for understanding mindset and ideas and concepts. But at the end of the day, you're never going to really know until you just get your hands dirty and start doing it. So.
Exactly. So let's get started from the beginning. I'm actually wondering, as I know you're a college dropout, and I just want to understand how you were, switch yourself from the college to something, what you were doing in the past related to the social media, how you made thousands and even millions of views before you joined in the 4Media as a marketing director. What was your journey and what was the reason to drop the college?
Yeah, no, it was funny enough. I was just thinking about this. I was at the gym and I was in the shower and I was thinking about dropping out of college because I met this guy in the sauna who's a business owner, and he said he owns a marketing agency as well. He's been doing it for 25 years. He started when he was 25. I was like, holy shit, 25 years. That's crazy. And I was thinking about my journey. I was like, man, how long have I been doing this stuff? And next year is going to be 10 years since I dropped out of college. I dropped out after 1 year of college. I'm 28 now. I'll kind of go back to my just early days for a quick second. So basically, I grew up here in Georgia. My parents, pretty normal middle-class family. They weren't super successful, but they weren't poor. I had a normal, very typical American life in the suburbs, good family. I was homeschooled growing up, actually. My mom homeschooled me until 4th grade. And then I went to a small private school until high school. And then in high school, I went to public school. And that was a huge shift for me because in private school, it was a religious school at my church and stuff. And the classes were super small. Still very grateful for that experience, but going to high school was a huge culture shock because not only were the classes kind of way easier and no one was really paying as close of attention to each individual student, but I was just introduced to a whole new scope of types of people, and my classes were huge. My high school, I think, had around 3,000 or 3,500 students, which is pretty massive. And to put it in perspective, my other school was like 64 people in my whole class, my whole year. So I went from that to like 1,000 people. So it's pretty crazy. But anyways, I just followed the path, it was like, go to high school, get good grades, go to college, get good grades, get a good job, get married, retire. I was just going down that path that everyone thinks that
average lifestyle.
Yeah, you're just like supposed to do it. That's what you do. That's what my parents did, And so I always saw my mom, she was involved in a network marketing company back in the day. A lot of people would probably call it a pyramid scheme or, one of those types of companies. But I remember watching my mom try to work on her business and really try to make something for herself. And I saw her working hard. And, if you get to this level, you can get the Mercedes or whatever. They'll pay for a car or, whatever. And it was a skincare company. I remember I was like thinking that was like a cool thing. But I was like, oh, it's for women. It's like skincare and stuff like that. So I could never do it. And then when I went to college, I didn't get into the college that I wanted to go to. I wanted to go to the University of Georgia, but my second pick college was GCSU in Milledgeville, Georgia College. It's a smaller college. It's not bad, but it's not amazing. But when I was there, my first year, I got introduced to a network marketing company called Vima, which is like MLM kind of thing, but it was based on a nutrition drink. So it was like a multivitamin. You drink it. It was like a liquid multivitamin. You drink it every day, whatever. But they had an energy drink version that had the multivitamin in it. So it was like, okay, kids love energy drinks. Teenagers and college students love energy drinks. Why not give them a healthy energy drink? So it was this whole movement of young people. Obviously it's supposed to be around the product more than anything, but it was like more people were excited about making money, And so at the end of the day, you can say whatever you want about those types of companies, but it really introduced me to the world of personal development and bettering myself and realizing that there was another way besides just going to college. And that's where I met Eddie. Eddie was actually in a company as well. Lots of really influential people that I've met that have gone to do super successful things. Austin Distal, he's one of the founders of Jasper AI. They just got valued at like crazy valuation. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was over $1 billion valuation. Crazy. And wow. George Yu, he was also in it for a little bit. Amazing entrepreneur. He's been on our podcast. So I met a lot of really, really great people in that company. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But I was just sitting there one night and I remember one of my roommates was like failing. He was like playing video games all the time and he was going to drop out. He was going to flunk out, basically. He was going to fail out of college and not be able to go to the school the next year. And I remember thinking I was kind of jealous of him because I was like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I was staying up. It was towards the end of the semester and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I remember I just sat there and I was like, man, I really don't think this is the way. I don't think that college is going to be as useful as everyone thinks it is in the future. There's a time and place for college. And looking back almost 10 years now, I definitely was a little bit naive in some of my thinking. But at the end of the day, I was like, man, I know I can make something for myself, even without this stupid piece of paper that says I went to college. And my classes, I was barely learning anything. I took one marketing class and it was total bullshit. It was like, we were talking about banner ads on websites and newspaper and shit. This is nothing that's going to be relevant in the next 5 or 6 years, So I was just like, this is dumb. I'm going to go try to figure this out. And so literally that night that I was studying for finals, I was like, either I could stay up all night and try to finish my studying and hopefully pass these classes and get good grades, or I could get a good night's sleep, go to bed right now and just know that I'm not coming back to this school. And that's pretty much what I did. And it was a crazy couple years after that. I was trying to still make that network marketing company work. And I was living with friends and trying to hustle and make money. I was working at a freaking Dunkin' Donuts coffee shop for a year, just trying to make ends meet while I was trying to build my business on the side and all this stuff. And that taught me a lot. I remember one day at Dunkin' Donuts, it was raining. I had to open the store at 5 a.m. It was like a coffee shop, so I opened super early. And it was raining and I didn't have a car and I had to walk to work. I normally walk to work. It was only like a 30-minute walk or something, a mile down the road. So it's kind of nice actually sometimes, but it was raining. And I was like, I could call an Uber, but that's going to waste half of my daily paycheck, or a quarter of it is going to basically make it so that like a third of my day was wasted. And I remember thinking, no, you know what? I need to go through this so I remember that I never want to do this shit again. I want to get out of this. I don't want to be here. And I remember I walked to work in the rain. My jeans were soaked. I tried to do what I could. I had an umbrella. I had a rain jacket, but there wasn't much I could do to not get wet. But I remember that day I was like, man, I gotta figure something out because I can't do this forever. So anyways, fast forward a little bit. I ended up doing some other stuff. I was an au pair for a little bit where I traveled and I was like a nanny. I lived with some families and stuff overseas. So I lived in Italy. I lived in Spain for a summer. I was working at a gym. I was just trying to figure it out, man. I wasn't really making any crazy money. I wasn't really building a business at that point, but I knew that I wanted to do something bigger. And I was very inspired by podcasters like Joe Rogan and Tim Ferriss and guys like that. And I was listening to a lot of podcasts and I was like, that would be cool to have a podcast, but whatever. And then one of my friends actually invited me to come on his podcast. And he was just like me, just a regular guy, just talking. And after I did that podcast, I was like, man, I could easily do this. I could do this podcast thing. I have a lot of cool friends, like I said, that I made at that company. I knew a lot of influential people at that point, and I knew that I had a lot of I could have some interesting conversations. So I was like, I'm going to start a podcast. So I started a podcast. And I basically I was living with my parents at the time. I didn't even have my own place. I didn't have a studio to record in. It was just like, I'm going to figure out a way to do this. So my big thing was I'm going to make it as easy as possible for my guests. So I'm going to go to them if it's possible. So I had a portable setup where I would go to them. So it was like super easy for them. I would create content for them so that they would get something out of it. And I just ran that up for 120 episodes. I was just going crazy. I was just like, I got to get to 100 episodes. I got to get to 100 episodes. I got to get to 100 episodes. One of my podcast guests was this guy named Richard Corbett, who was a paraplegic. He uses a wheelchair and he had a spinal cord injury. And through the podcast, I was like, okay, I need to talk to this guy. He's a cool guy, as an inspiring story. And at some point he came to me and he was like, hey man, I really want to make a YouTube channel, but I don't really know where to start. And you're getting into content and making videos and stuff like that. And I'd love to work with you if possible. And basically he was like, how much money would you need to quit your job? And I was like, oh, okay, this amount. And it was like, okay, well, I can pretty much almost cover that. So how about we try to make this thing happen and build this YouTube channel? So basically from there, I was still doing the podcast and we started building his YouTube channel up. It's called Wheels to Walking, Wheels, the number 2 walking. And basically we were just making videos, helping newly injured wheelchair users help improve their quality of life and inspire them and show them that their life isn't over and that they could make something of their life. They could have a girlfriend. They could move out of their parents' house. They could live a happy life. Their life was not over. And man, we impacted so many people. I think we did 11 million views or something crazy. I don't even remember at this point, but we did a lot of millions of views. We got like 100,000 subscribers. We won a Shorty Award for that channel. And eventually we started out the Wheels to Walking podcast, basically on the back of my podcast. And that podcast blew up even more than my podcast, the Andrew Deitch podcast. So I was like, okay, instead of trying to put wood on this little fire that's burning over here with my podcast, how about we throw some logs on this fire that's already burning with the Wheels to Walking podcast and explode this thing? So we really just started running with the Wheels to Walking podcast and the channel. And then really we both reached a point where we were realizing that we were not necessarily trying to part ways, but we both knew that we were ready to make some changes. And it was around that time that Eddie actually hit me up and he's like, hey man, I have this marketing agency and I want to start a content team, but I don't have anyone who, I can't lead it. I'm leading the other side. I need someone to come in here and lead this team of content creators. And at the time, I'd never done anything in e-commerce, really. I hadn't done product stuff. I really was just making YouTube videos and vlogs and little, just standard content creation type stuff. And he put a lot of faith in me and he said, give me 2 years, give me 2 years. We'll build this thing like crazy. And this was right when 4Media was just moving into our office. So I'm actually in the office right now if you're watching the video, but nothing. What'd you say?
When it was?
This was about 2 years ago. It's crazy now because he was like, give me 2 years. We'll do this thing. That was the end of October 2020. So basically to give a little backstory on the office, he was doing a lot of local lead gen stuff for 4Media. They were focused on local lead gen. And when the pandemic hit, a lot of local lead gen stuff dried up because he was doing a lot of work with family entertainment centers and stuff like that, where a lot of their business relied on birthday parties. And so birthday parties completely dried up. Then they pivoted to automotive marketing. So started working with auto shops and stuff like that. But, a problem that they actually were encountering was like, some of these guys have an auto shop with few garages. And if you fill up all their garages for a whole month, you get them fully booked for a month. You got to turn your ads off at some point because you can't fit anymore. So it's like, okay, we're reaching a point of scalability with some of these automotive clients where we should try to find something that scales even harder. So that's when we pivoted to e-commerce, and that's when we realized how important content was going to be, and we needed a full content team to create content for these brands. And that's when he basically realized that we needed to have an actual office, because most social media marketing agencies and stuff like that are fully remote. It's one of those businesses that's come up in the past really 5, 6 years, 7 years, probably. And most people start it out of their home, and maybe they're a media buyer or something. And then they're like, I'm going to start my own thing. Before you know it, you hire a few employees. And then before you know it, you have a full blown agency. I'm sure you can relate to that. So a lot of times these agencies don't really ever pivot to being physical. Most of them start off fully remote, but never really make that pivot. But with content, like, you really do have to, if you're going to be shooting stuff, you got to have a place to do it, unless you just have one videographer where you just ship all the products to him and he's got a studio in his basement or something. We really wanted to create an office culture and have a place where we could all go and meet and work and just feel like a real business, So those were the early days. I met with Eddie when we were still building all the furniture. We have 2 chairs that they built, their office chairs. We were just sitting there. There was like no desks, no tables, no computers, no nothing. We were just sitting in an empty office. And he really cast the vision for what 4Media could be. And I was sold. I was like, let's do this thing. So I committed, and we've just been building our content team ever since. We've expanded into the offices next door. We've built out sets. I'm in the podcast studio right now. We started the 4Media podcast, which has been super successful, and the rest has kind of been history. Sorry if that was kind of long-winded of my story, but
no, it was actually a super open and great explain it. Yeah, for me, the short version. So now I really understand everything, how it's got started. And what you are doing now in terms of content in 4Media, I was telling you that already in the past, that piece of contents are really like great one, really on the advanced level in terms of it's completely ready to go for the TV promotions. It's completely it's going for the brands like Snow and other big brands, which is already close to $1 billion evaluation, even above $1 billion evaluation. So you like providing high professional service in terms of content. And according to that, you started suddenly, you were not planning, you were just messing around, looking what's working and so on. I mean, it was like a game for you to see what's going to be working, what's not. So I understand that in the past, it was completely different to compare what's working now. And as I know, you're studying a lot of what's going to be working in 2023, especially for such like TikTok, YouTube, like video shorts. What kind of insights would you love to share with the guys? Let's say like 3 or top 5 of what we have to make attention to for the paid ads, for organic growth, especially for e-commerce brands, because most of the guys and girls who listen to us, they are or in e-commerce somehow or the e-commerce brand owners. So what kind of suggestion could you give for them? Like top 3 points.
So for me, I have to think about content in kind of like 2 buckets, because I have the content that we create for 4Media, and then we have the content that we create for our clients. So I'll kind of address both of them. So I'll start with clients. Most of our clients are e-commerce brands. They are selling physical products for the most part. We have started with some info products recently. So people selling courses and stuff like that. Some actually pretty big names in the space. Very exciting stuff here at 4Media to move into that area. But I've mainly been working on the e-commerce client space the whole time. That was always the service that my department offered. And I think when I first started, a lot of content was a lot simpler, and it's only gotten more and more advanced as time goes on, but I think it was a lot of unboxing videos, very simple. You can imagine those old drop shipping type videos where it's just simply someone using the product sped up or something. It was very simple stuff. And I think for client content, for e-commerce brands and stuff like that, one thing that you really have to think about is from a marketing mind, where is your customer coming from, and reverse engineer from there. So a video that's going to work as an Amazon ad is not going to necessarily work as an Instagram ad, because, for example, Amazon, the ads show up in the search. So someone is searching for, let's say, protein powder on Amazon. Your ad is being displayed between all the other protein powders. So you need to make something that's going to differentiate your brand from all the other protein powders in terms of quality and price. If you're showing something on Instagram, they weren't necessarily searching for protein powder. Maybe their sophistication level is a little bit lower. Maybe they don't have a protein powder that they're using right now, or maybe they are open to switching. So that ad needs to feel very different. The person that's on Amazon is being intentional about shopping right now. They're on Amazon. They're looking for a deal. They're looking for something specific. And on Instagram, maybe they're standing in line at Starbucks and they're just bored and they're opening their phone. So you need to think about that type of mentality of the viewer and then reverse engineer your content from there so that you can actually respect them as the viewer and not just think that you can just throw anything in front of their face and they're just gonna press buy. You know what I mean? Especially now, people are getting very used to buying things online, and we're creatures of habit, right? So if you're used to buying things a certain way, you can't just expect that people are gonna just buy the way that you think they're gonna buy, or buy the way that you want them to buy, or whatever. So I'd say that's the biggest thing, is just thinking about the platforms and the placements of the ads themselves, and what type of person and what type of environment and what type of mindset is that person in to actually go and purchase that product. And you also have to address their sophistication levels. For example, I was thinking about this the other day. We have a new client that's a hair loss supplement. It's not like people don't know that hair loss supplements exist. Everyone knows that there's hair loss supplements and hair loss, not necessarily supplements, but shampoos and all kinds of stuff for hair loss. So knowing that your viewer probably already has heard of hair loss stuff, what are you going to do to differentiate yourself from the market? Is it the product itself? Are you selling the same generic shit that you can buy at CVS and Costco? Or are you selling something proprietary? And so just really like digging into the psychology of who's going to watch it. And I think that's where a lot of content creators go wrong, because I think that there's a lot of people that are really good at marketing but kind of suck at making content. And then there's people that are really good at making content but have no idea what is actually going to be important to show. So for example, if you have a product and one of the key features is really, really cool, but you don't show that feature of the product until the very end of the ad, that's kind of pointless. You're wasting that opportunity to show off the coolest thing of your product. So I always think about, if I was telling my friends about this product, what's the first thing you're going to brag about? What's the thing that you're going to say to them that's going to make them excited about whatever you're going to tell them about? That needs to be addressed in the very beginning of the video. I think everyone kind of knows at this point, at least in the marketing space, about hooks of videos. Your hook of the video needs to be the most thing that you think about the most, because especially on all these platforms that you can immediately swipe away an ad like as soon as possible, it doesn't really matter what the rest of your video is. If the hook is not enticing them to watch the rest of the video, they're not going to watch it. So the hook is the most important thing, and make it something that not only captures their attention, but lets them know that what you're about to show them is something that maybe they haven't seen before, or something slightly addressing something at a different angle, or whatever the case might be. So I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to marketing fundamentals and thinking about actually who your customer is and how they are seeing that content. Going over to the internal side, I think you can kind of apply this to a lot of service-based companies and companies that are not necessarily selling a physical good, but they're selling something. Maybe they're selling consulting. Maybe you're selling a service, like you're an agency owner and you're selling these services. It's a lot more challenging to create ads for those that are just, the ads have to be very different. So if you're doing paid ads, you're probably going to have to talk on camera. You're probably going to have some kind of spokesperson. You also might have to have some animations or at least text on screen to help educate the customer to figure out what it is that you're actually going to help them with. And I think the biggest thing there is, again, addressing the customer, not just telling them that you're going to make them money. That's, I think, one of the easiest and like most low-hanging fruit is, how would you like to make $10,000 extra a month? Like everyone on planet Earth thinks that, yes. But I think everyone has seen those hooks before and it's too good to be true. It feels like a scam. It feels like whatever. So they're just like, no, I don't care what you're telling me. I've heard it before and I've been burned in the past. So go away. But if you said something very specific to your audience, so let's say you're an agency that specializes, again, let's go back to the automotive industry, addressing a very specific problem with the automotive industry, speaking their language, so that the customer on the other end, which is, again, another business, they understand that not only do you understand their industry very fully to the extent where you can address their specific pain points, but not only that, give them an irresistible offer. What is the offer that you're going to give them in that video that's going to make them actually be enticed enough to give you a call or fill out your form or go to your landing page or whatever the case might be. So not just like, are you this guy? How would you like to make this much more money? It's like, yeah, but whatever. But if I said, are you this guy? Do you deal with this every day? Does this piss you off? Does this get them in those like really very specific pain points?
That you feel them.
Exactly. They're going to be like, wow, this guy really understands my business. This guy really knows what's going on in the automotive industry. Do you hate when clients want paint protection film, but actually they really want ceramic coating? Something like that. I don't know. But something where they realize that not only are you speaking directly to them, but you're also speaking their language, their lingo, and you're addressing their exact problems. So obviously, everyone loves money. And if you're creating content for a generic audience, money is typically actually a very good hook. Even talking about money or talking about how much money you made in a month or a week, people eat that shit up. People love that stuff, especially on podcast clips. People start talking about money. People are just like curious. How much does this guy make? I make this much. Man, I've got to work. They calculate it in their head. I've got to work 4 months to make that much money. He made it in a day. That's crazy. Like those type of hooks really work for a generic type of audience. But if it's an ad, I feel it's a little overdone. Anyways, going back to stuff like content for your own brand. So you've got paid ads, obviously, but then you also have to think about all the organic content that you're creating for social media, because that, I think really that's the main driver. People are going to, if you make really good content for organic, people are going to discover you and discover your business. And at the end of the day, these platforms are trying to find stuff that resonates with people, because the more views it gets, the more engagement it gets, the more that people want to stay on the platform, the more people are having a good experience on those platforms. So they like that. If you make a video with 4 million views on TikTok, I don't have to question whether that video is good. I know it's good because the algorithm doesn't lie. You know what I mean? And granted, it could be like clickbait, and there's easy ways to get views, especially if you're like an attractive girl. You can just barely wear any clothes and you're going to get views. But that's a cheap way of getting views. You can't really address that with business. Like if you're making content about your business and it's getting lots of views, you're obviously doing something right. And also, it might not be that piece of content that sucked. It might just be the hook that sucked. And all you need to do is just test some new hooks, because those hooks might have just not been compelling enough for people to stick around and watch the rest.
According to that, what kind of hooks examples, in your opinion, are the most efficient in nowadays, which you could recommend? I mean, something what really make an attraction, doesn't matter what kind of industry, but that it catch and give organic growth from your experience.
I think you have to think of content in two ways. So there's going to be experiential type content that's just very high end, and it feels like there was a lot of money and effort put into it. And then there's also performance content that just speaks directly to the person and makes it feel very relatable. And typically I would think of that as like using experiential stuff as a branding play to really get people to understand that you're serious about what you do. You invest money in your content. So that obviously means typically content is not the first thing people are spending money on. You got to have a product or a brand first. So if you're already at the point where you're investing a lot of money in content, you've probably got a pretty good product. It's kind of like the unspoken thing about content is like, if you're already investing a lot of money in content, chances are you've already got something good to pump that money in. So from an experiential standpoint, just honestly, what we do is just anytime I see an ad that sparks my attention or a video that sparks my attention, I send it to a group chat that I have with my team. So we have a chat on Instagram that's just all my team, and we just are always sending each other really great ads, because honestly, you have to get inspiration from elsewhere. There's actually a lot of controversy around this in AI. Right now, there's that whole trend of people uploading their pictures and that makes the profile pictures, right? But there's like this whole controversy about, well, is the AI actually making art, or is it just basing a bunch of images of you based on the art styles of other artists that have already existed? And it's like, yes, duh, but isn't that what all artists do? The first guy that painted a painting, are we going to say that every other painter on earth is just copying that painter? No. You know, like if someone makes something with a camera and then now I use a camera to make something, am I copying that first guy? No, it's a medium, and every piece of art is always building on what we've seen before. And it's just a matter of how much of it are you copying. That's why, like, in fair use cases, like in the United States, there's like fair use of content. Like if I take something that you made and I make it transformative enough that it's something new, like if I used your voice as a little sample in my song, I'm allowed to do that because the rest of the song is the piece of art. I just took your little phrase and used it as I remixed it enough. And I think I don't quote me on this, but I think it's like, if the court can say that you basically transformed it enough so that more than 50% of the creation is your own, you're allowed to use other things, as long, there's a gray area. But basically what I'm trying to say is no one's coming up with 100% original ideas. We're all building on the backs of people that came before us. You could go back way far and even think about language. Someone invented the English language and we're all using it now as a tool to further ourselves as a society and all this stuff. So I don't think that taking inspiration from other artists is a bad thing at all. I think you need to take inspiration from what you see and make sure you put your own twist on it so that it doesn't feel like you're copying. So for example, if I see a really cool ad for a coffee grinder and they do some sort of cool transition in the beginning where the coffee grinder emerges from a pile of coffee beans, that's really cool. I could probably take the same concept and apply it to a protein powder, have a pile of protein powder and the protein powder bottle comes through. Is it similar? Yes. Is it a lot of the same concept? Or maybe I reverse it and instead of it coming out, it goes in. And as long as you're taking inspiration and using it to your advantage and using it especially if you're using it in a different niche, that's when it's like, it totally makes sense. There's a book, I believe it's a book called Steal Like an Artist. I'd have to look again. It's in my Audible account, but listen to that. And it is a great book. And it really talks about how you can take inspiration from other areas of life and apply it to your art, apply it to your stuff. So that's what we do, is we look at what's out there, what's going on. And not only do we take inspiration from what we do like, but we also take note of what we don't like and figure out creative ways to change those things. So this could have been a really cool ad if the text was different. Or for example, one thing I see a lot, especially if an ad or a video needs a lot of text to explain something, if you just put all of the text on the screen at one time, people are going to make a decision whether they're going to read all that text or not, because they're going to see it. And especially with a video, you don't know how much longer that text is going to be on the video. So you might start by just scanning it like crazy, hoping that it doesn't go away. Or you could just be like, fuck it, that's way too much text, I'm not reading it. But if you feed them one word at a time or one line at a time, and eventually maybe the whole screen fills up, those people aren't making the decision to read it anymore. They are just simply reading it, because when you look at a word, you don't choose if you're going to read the word or not. It's only one word. So you're reading that word. Just by looking at it, you know what the word is and you know what the meaning is. So if you put the words in one by one or line by line, you have a way higher chance of retention and people actually reading it, because not only are you not making them have anxiety about how much time they have left, because you're kind of telling them how much time they have just by simply the pace at which you're feeding them the words. And then B, you're going to make them read it because their eye is being drawn to whatever the newest thing. If you're just throwing 100% new stuff at them, now they don't know where to look. They don't know what to look at. They don't know if they have enough time to read it. So stuff like that is where we take a lot of inspiration from. And I don't really remember exactly where I was going with that. But yeah, take inspiration from other people and share it with your team, share it with other people, save it. I love on Instagram, they have collections you can save things to. You can click the little bookmark button and you can save specific things to specific collections. And you can also do that inside of groups too. But TikTok has that feature. Instagram has that feature. I think Facebook might even have that feature. But I love stuff like that. So I would say take inspiration from people that you admire their work and change it up a little bit and make it your own.
You know, I agree with you 100%, and I have something to add it from my end that in our days, not in our days, it was always, but in our days, especially when these vertical videos came, the short videos on the TikTok platforms, YouTube shorts, Instagram stories and Instagram reels, people watching most of the time videos without the sound. Even I catch myself, like I never turn on the sound, never. And only these kind of bulk words are helping us to, like, instead of skip the video, to stuck on it. I like sometimes, like, I have to listen to this video. I have to scroll it because I don't want to read it, but I'm reading because the line is running and you just involved, you engaged and done. You cannot stop it because you want to understand till the end, or you have to turn it on the audio and listen it. So this kind of bulk words for sure, especially Instagram Reels, TikTok, it's something what's working for not info business, but info creatives, so let's say, or storytelling creatives. And about the inspiration, for sure, you have e-commerce brand, go and check your biggest competitors who are doing well like you or even better, and go to Ads Library, go to their Facebook, Instagram pages, and just see what's the best engagement and just renovate in your way. For example, we had one brand who joined us and we went to his competitor's page and we found out a couple of awesome picture creatives. We modulated and it became a winner creative just because we find out what other audience love it. I mean, the same audience, but from another brand. So like 100%, you are not stealing, but you are modulating. That's for, I mean, all of us, we have to do that to make the creative better.
We've seen, I think, a rise in so many ads and so much content about what to buy, what's the best, this. And I think TikTok is huge with that, showing people new products, new things that they need to have. TikTok made me buy it, all that type of shit. And, you know, you can ride those product waves of trends and things like that. But at the end of the day, I think, at least the way that I see things moving, I think we're moving towards a society where we are trusting we're always trusting authority less and less, right? So back in the day, I think you could just show something on TV and people would just buy it. You know, you have enough money to run a TV commercial, you're obviously a legitimate business. Now, anyone with a few bucks and a drop shipping store can sell you a piece of shit thing that they're arbitraging for very little money, selling it for $50, flipping it, whatever. But the thing is, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because ultimately that's how the world works. What do you think Walmart is doing? They are retail stores. They buy things for cheap in bulk and then they sell them to you for more. What do you think this is? People get mad about that type of stuff. And it's like, do you not realize how retail literally works? That's literally how this works. It's very new that a business would sell directly to the consumer. Very new that they would own the entire chain of events to take a product from like an idea all the way to the fucking customer's doorstep. That has not existed before the internet, really, you know? So people are just becoming more aware of how the world really works. And so I think that they're realizing how manipulative advertising can be. They're realizing that people can make fake reviews on a website and lie about what the product really is. They can steal other people's before and afters and claim it's their own products before and afters. They can pay UGC creators to say whatever they want about the product and it seems like a real person giving a real review. You can pay an influencer a bunch of money to say whatever you want about their brand. People are just realizing that anyone is willing to do anything for a certain amount of money, so you really can't trust them. So how do you make customers that are smart? And you can't just expect everyone to be stupid and a dumb monkey brain that's just going to click buy just because you showed them something. So thinking about the sophistication levels of consumers are getting higher and higher every year. Granted, there's a lot of stupid people out there still, but I think people are
there
becoming
will be
more
always
aware
enough
of this.
space.
Yeah, but I mean, especially in the marketing space, like, we see it all the time. We are deep in the trenches, so we see this type of stuff, and we see how people are getting manipulated, and we see how people are stealing and misleading customers and faking reviews and deleting bad reviews and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, it's all a game. At the end of the day, a lot of this is a game. Figuring out how you can. We saw a lot of this stuff emerging with NFTs and AI and all this crazy stuff. The world is a different place than it was 5 years ago. The pandemic, AI, crypto, all this stuff is changing how we're going to interact with the world. And the world is becoming a small place. The fact that we're doing a podcast right now, I'm hanging out with you, and we're in completely different countries. I have to even turn my brain for a second and go, oh yeah, Anatoliy's in Portugal. You know, it's weird how crazy small the world is becoming. People in different countries are able to leverage the power of making content in their country, or editing or copywriting or whatever the case is. And I mean, people that have just gotten used to being able to go and do anything and make a decent living, it's getting a lot more competitive out there, and the world is getting crazy. So I think people are just becoming more and more aware of that. And people that are just being complacent and not trying to level themselves up and learn and get better, they're in for a very rude awakening, you know?
According to what you said about the stealing, I just have a perfect example. 2 days ago, one of our sales managers texted me, bro, I catch them. Like, what happened? Yeah, these fuckers. And he starts sharing with me some Instagram page and like, look on that. And the page looks really shady, you know, it doesn't look legit. But the thing is, they have a lot of different screenshots, video recordings from Shopify's. And we found out that the biggest result is like was 6.5 million. It is our recording. So they take our video, and that was a recording made by me from my phone, Shopify app. I'm just sliding everywhere, showing the proofs. And after that, I'm moving to my Instagram to show that it's me, you know, like it's like a proof. So they cut it. I mean, at the end, they just cut it and place as their own review. Look what they're doing. And they sell it twice cheaper and so on. I said, speak to the lead, show him our original video, tell him what's going on. And we closed that lead. I mean, first of all, we saved him, but secondly, we get easy client for ourselves. But the thing is that, what was the point? That there is still monkey business, even shady page. Like, come on, you're going to give thousands of dollars to someone who you never seen in internet. I'm dealing always with proofs, like I have to record myself, I had pictures, I have to make pictures with these plugs, whatever, any kind of proofs. I have to be networking with other people to show that I'm real. But some fuckers out there doing monkey business without showing up at all, nobody knows what's behind, and there is a people who are gonna be buying. So the content, like people creating content from nothing, even without modulating, just stealing.
You know, like I said, things are getting wild. Things are going to change. Especially in the content world, we're seeing the rise of all this AI content creation. Very soon, there's going to be very convincing video tools out there where you can just type in what you want, send a few pictures of your product, and it will make some cool, sick ad, you know, and like, shoot, that's going to be real. And people are going to be able to make a brand out of nothing. And I think what's going to really prevail is authenticity and showing up and being real and relating to your audience. Like you said, you're creating content. I can't fake and pretend to be you as a person if you're all the time making content, talking about things on your Instagram, doing podcast interviews, you know, all this kind of stuff. No one can imitate. I mean, people can try to imitate you, but at the end of the day, they're not you. And of course, you can have deep fakes and all this stuff where you can make a fake video of Joe Biden saying something that he didn't say or whatever. And we're going to deal with that. And I think we'll figure out tools and ways that we can figure out what is real and what's not. I think right now the waters are very muddy of what is real and what's not and what's fake and what's real. I think the companies that will prevail are going to be figuring out ways to help brands and businesses showcase what is actually real, like proving that this is you, proving that your before and afters are legit, showing. I think even in the future, there's going to be so many bots and things that are going to be able to talk to people in such elegant ways that we're not going to be able to tell if we're talking to a robot or not, but we'll have to have literal proof of personhood meaning that somehow verifiably you'll have to be able to prove that you're even a real person. It'll be crazy. But anyways, I love talking about this type of stuff, but it relates to the marketing industry because it's really going to affect the authenticity of reviews. It's going to reflect the authenticity of content showing, does your product really do what it says it does? And at the end of the day, if you're creating a brand that is going to get real humans to talk to each other about the brand, it's going to do the work for itself. You're going to know about these brands because real people are using them and real people are talking about them, not just some random UGC content creator, not just some influencer that's getting paid to talk about it. Real people, your friends, your family, they're going to be the ones that are talking about it. And word of mouth is never, I don't ever imagine word of mouth is ever going to die. Like that is always still the most powerful point of marketing, but you've got to create enough leverage to get to the point where real people are actually talking about your brand. So getting to that point is the hard part. But once you've established an amazing brand that people fall in love with and ingrain into their lifestyle and they can't live without it, that's when you've really reached a level where you don't have to worry about that type of shit, because at the end of the day, you've got real humans that love your brand and love your product on your side, and they will go to bat for you and they will defend you and they will make sure that people know what is real and what is not. So
the snowball effect, like when you will grow good content and trust and product, which will allow you to get unlimited reviews and people who are going to be talking about. One of the last questions, which is like I was planning to ask you about the future of advertising, and especially AI, in your opinion, would it be affected? Would it be implementable on the marketing, on your opinion, especially on the creative creation? You just mentioned one sentence which is catch my attention. It was that maybe in future it will be just send us a picture of the product and we will make it for you insane good content. How do you see this kind of variation of the future and how AI could help make that happen?
Yeah, I think AI has been around for a little bit now. And so people have been kind of studying its implications and stuff. And for example, I think one of the biggest things was when the chess grandmaster was able to be beaten by AI. So a chess master, people thought it would never be possible for someone to beat someone at chess. And then there's the game of Go. I don't really understand the game of Go. I think it's a Chinese game, but it's a game where it's even more crazy than chess because there's so many possibilities of moves that you can do in the game of Go. It's like more than the atoms in the universe or something insane. And eventually an AI was able to beat the best Go players. But the crazy thing is the chess grandmasters were getting beaten by the AI. But if you took a human plus the AI, you could beat the AI, if that makes sense. Yeah. So if a real human was working hand in hand with the AI, that combination could beat the other AI, basically. So I think that if you are doing low level activities that are not actually bringing real value to the marketplace and are things that will be able to be replaced by AI, for example, if you're just simply all day replacing the background of an image, that's a very low, it's not a skill that takes a lot of learning to get to that level of skill. And so you will be replaced by AI. But if you are able to use AI to your advantage and now you're able to do your job in a fraction of the time and people don't know about that AI tool yet because it hasn't reached popular lexicon where people know that that's a thing, now you're able to take advantage of it. That's in the short term. In the long term, people will know about those tools and you will be replaced. So how do you use AI to your advantage and how do you create opportunities for yourself by using AI? So for example, just because we've created this tool doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to know how to use it the same. Most AIs are being fed some kind of prompt to get the result that you want. And I think that there's going to be in the future specific, not only just in content, but in AI in general, there's going to be a whole field of prompt engineers that are figuring out the best things to feed the AI to get the best results. So in order to take full advantage of this wave, I would say try to just start learning. I don't know if going deep on it right now even makes so much sense just because it's moving at such a fast pace that you don't even know if what you're really going so hard on is going to get replaced by an even better AI thing in the near future. That's why I haven't tried to implement it fully into my workflow just yet, because I think that we're going to see, I mean, even in the past year, the increase of types of tools that we've seen. But think about the first iPhone, how shitty and little it was, and the pixels were not very tight, and you could see the individual
but
dots.
on that time, it was a great one in that time.
Yeah. But at the time, it was amazing. It was incredible. The touchscreen was crazy. You could pinch to zoom, but now we hold an old iPhone. The screen is tiny. There's a home button on it. There's 2 giant black bars on the top. It's thick. The battery life sucks. It can't even take videos. But now look at where we're at. We have a thin piece of glass, full screen. You can't see the pixels when you look closely. The cameras are insane. And that's been the case for the past couple years. Phones have kind of reached a pretty good threshold of what we accept as just a good smartphone. And so I think we're going to get to that point with AI and all these other types of tools where there's going to be a threshold where the general population will be able to have full access to these tools for minimal cost, or, even free. Just in the example of like Gmail, we have, or Google Drive, or all these things. Like Google is providing us free access, because also there's benefits to being inside of that whole Google ecosystem. Whatever the case is, I think Google is probably going to be a big player in this space. But basically, going back to my point, there's going to be people whose entire jobs are just prompt engineers, figuring out the best prompts and the best things to feed into the AI to get the wanted result. So I think at the end of the day, that's really how a lot of things are. If you want to be a really good researcher, you got to know the right things to type into Google to find the results that you want. If you're going to be an amazing creator, you need to know the right inputs and the right things to put into your editing software to make it do the thing you want. Same with AI. You're going to have to know what the best things to tell and give the AI to get the result that you want. So I think that humans plus AI is probably going to be the future. Who knows what that's going to look like if it involves Neuralink implanting in your skull like Elon Musk wants to do.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I just was about to say that.
It's going to be wild. I think in the next few years, it's going to be pretty crazy. It's probably going to be even crazier in the next 10. Even just thinking about 10 years ago, like I said, when I dropped out of school, I think about the technology that I was using then and the technology that I have now. It's crazy. So yeah, I think that's kind of where it's going. And ultimately, while we're on this rabbit hole, I think a lot of it is going to play into cryptocurrency, because a lot of this AI stuff, the cost of it is the computing power needed to run the machines to actually pump out these things. Because at the end of the day, the AI is actually very dumb, but it's dumb on a scale that we can't even imagine. It's like dumb on a scale of millions of years. So if you told a monkey to try to figure something out, but you gave him 1,000,000 years to figure it out, he could probably figure it out, And that's kind of how like a lot of this AI stuff is like at the core of it. It's just testing and doing 1,000,000 things so fast that it's unfathomable. But at the end of the day, it's not like actually intelligent the way that humans are as of right now. But anyways, all that to say is the cost of running these things is computing power. And that's the same thing with Bitcoin. The cost of making it is the energy that it takes to run the machines and the actual machines themselves, the compute. So the better and more efficient these computers get, that's going to make everything increase. But also, at the end of the day, you still need energy to run all these machines, and you're still going to need energy to run the AIs. So I think there's going to be a lot of parallels that happen there. And at the end of the day, the world runs on energy. And so I think having some kind of currency and some kind of service that's fully backed almost by energy, you can't just manifest energy out of nowhere. You got to do something. You got to burn some fossil fuels. You got to harvest it from the sun. You got to use thermodynamics. You got to, whatever the case is, you can't just, the world runs on energy. So the more that we can double down on that, I'm excited about that part. So yeah.
I will tell you that every single year I'm more and more excited about what is going to be happening in next, not even 5 or 10 years, in the next couple of years. Because 5 years ago, I started e-commerce and it was dinosaur area. Even when e-commerce started back in 2012, I speak about Facebook advertising, social media advertising, started in 17. So after 5 years, it's like kind of future already there, but still it was like a baby to compare to what value is there, what kind of technologies are there, how the social media changed in the matter of 5 years, which is like one of my friends, he just took the pause from the e-commerce. He was successful e-commerce brand owner, like 100K a day for the kind of supplements. And he took a pause for 6 months just to mentally relax, because he started having troubles mentally at home with wife and all the things. 6 months after, we have a dinner and he's saying like, man, I don't know how to come back. It looks like everything is different, and it's after 6 months. And I catch myself that it's true. It is like how fast it's moving. 6 months ago, TikTok, people were just talking about it, that it's kind of future, it's kind of makes sense to test. Now all the big advertisers, responsible advertisers, are running TikTok ads. Nobody quit on Facebook, but still TikTok ads taking a huge piece of the niche in nowadays. So I'm just saying that really a couple of years, what's gonna be happen to us? It's insane. Seriously.
Totally.
Man.
And if I was a stock photo photographer, I would be worried. If I was just taking stock photos, you pay a certain fee to use the photos because the photos were taken by a real photographer and they need to get compensated. I'm just taking photos that are just designed for general use of a water bottle or whatever the case is. The guy's going to eat your lunch. So you got to figure out how to pivot or whatever, because, there's going to be a lot of things that are
going to be created, you mean, by the technology, not by the human. Correct?
Yeah, for sure. And, there's just going to be a lot of things that are going to change. And I think at the end of the day, you make as much money as the size of the problems that you're solving, right? So if you've kind of figured out a way to make a lot of money, and maybe you don't even know if you fully deserve it all. Obviously, we all want to work hard and all this stuff. But for example, you look at all the craziness that happened with NFTs in the past year. Most of those people did not deserve the value that they were bringing to the marketplace, was not deserved of how much money they were making. And we've seen that with the crash, all that stuff dried up, a lot of it. People made their money. I hope a lot of people cashed out, and I don't hate on people that find a loophole and make money from a loophole. I'm just saying it doesn't have longevity. You can't rely on doing that for the rest of your life when you could just take a very quick look at something and go, this is probably not going to last. What's the real value? What problem is it solving? With entertainment, it's a little harder. You can say like, what problem is a movie solving? But at the end of the day, the problem that it's solving is people want to relax and they want to watch a movie. But the reason why a lot of these franchises and things like Pokemon, it's successful because people have an emotional attachment to it. They played it as a kid and they love it, and they have an emotional experience with those characters. You can't just make a random made up world of NFT characters and make people feel like they have some kind of emotional attachment to it, besides they think they're going to hold it and get rich. It's not really the thing. And there's something to be said about appreciating art, of course, but at the end of the day, the value of the art is in the eye of the beholder. And so if you're holding it only because you think it's going to go up in value and not because you actually appreciate the fuck out of that art, it doesn't really matter, because you could think that your thing is worth that much. But if the next guy doesn't think it's worth that much, then it doesn't really matter what you think.
Yeah, it's just like, as you said, about the value, because on hype, people making those money on hype, and there is zero value, and hype is going for fast out. No value, done.
Exactly.
And we are running out of time for the podcast. And just before we end it, I have one question left. But before that, I want to ask you how our audience can find out you, because look, guys and girls who are still listening to us, Andrew is an amazing video creator, and his team, they're doing wonderful content. And I believe as a part of 4Media Group, you can offer something to my audience that if they reach out, you can make it something awesome for their brands, if any.
Yeah, for sure. If you're an e-commerce brand, definitely reach out to 4Media. We work with all e-commerce brands of all sizes, from small brands that are just getting started, maybe don't even have a storefront, all the way up to huge brands that are doing millions of dollars a month. We work with everybody. We're also, like I said, we're working with info products now. So, if you have a course or you want to start a course or whatever the case is, definitely hit us up. And then for me personally, I've been doing some consulting as well. So if you already have a content team, you're making content, and you just don't have a leader for that team, or you need a second eye on your things or whatever, definitely easiest way to reach me is probably on Instagram, honestly. Just shoot me a DM on Instagram. My Instagram's probably linked in the description, but it's Andrew_Deitch. My name's probably spelled in the episode title, but hit me up and let's talk. I'd love to figure out how I can help you grow your team and make better content.
Awesome, bro. Of course, all your information will be in the bio on our podcast and YouTube. And for sure, I'm looking forward that someone will reach out to you because, again, guys, content is freaking amazing. The way how they approach it. They have professional studio and they have a full team of who is doing the full-time job on making the incredible stuff with the product, with the physical products, and even actoring, especially about the actoring. I don't want to go deep there because it will be long and fun. But last question, which is I'm asking everyone at the end of the podcast, and just think about it and answer what's your opinion. What's more important for you? The journey or end result?
That's a good one. I think the journey is the most important. At the end of the day, the end result is only the end result if you choose it to be the end, right? Like you can have goals, but you achieve your goal and then what? There's always another thing. So of course, the journey is amazing. It's always in hindsight that you look back at the journey and you appreciate it more. When you're daily in the trenches and you're working hard and you're just, going, and some days you feel like you're drowning, it's not so fun. But I think, and sometimes you have to have hard conversations. I'm not somebody that likes having conflict. I don't like arguing. I don't like having tough conversations, breakups, having to fire people. Stuff like that is so hard, but I think you can honestly look back at your life and think about all the types of hard conversations you've had to have. Those are probably some of the most meaningful pivot moments of your life and moments where you understand something about yourself that you didn't realize. And also looking back, you realize that you probably thought it was going to be worse than it was, So you think about like, oh my God, I have to break up with this girl. She's not the one, but I feel so bad. I've been with her for this long, but it's just not working out. It seems so bad, but at the end of the day, it's like, if it's not the one, it's not the one. You gotta make those hard decisions. Same thing with clients, same thing with employees. And so that part of the journey sucks sometimes, but it makes you stronger and it makes you more resilient. And the more that you can push yourself, the more you realize that you grow as a person and you can do more things faster. And it's only going to make you more powerful as an individual. And at the end of the day, I think we all need to just figure out how to make the world suck a little less. There's things about the world that suck and are inefficient and are not good and are not fair. And if you can do your part to improve that, I think you're killing it.
Awesome answer, super open. And I will tell you that journey is making us who we are. I mean, I can see that most of the people always answer in the journey, and I'm one of them. Because really, when you are at the end, it's not the titles at the end of the movie. No, it's like, what's next? I mean, you need sequel. You need sequel instantly after the end result. So I completely with you on that. And I do appreciate for your time, Andrew, and for that you being here. And just guys, girls, follow this person. If you're wondering, reach out to him. And man, I appreciate for being on the podcast. Andrew, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And I'm looking forward for our new episodes, maybe for some other contents, which is going to be audience will ask for. Thank you, man.
For sure. And your episode of the 4Media Uncut podcast will be out by the time this comes out. So everyone go listen to that one too. It was an amazing story. And Anatoliy shared his story. It is amazing. So definitely check that out too.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, guys, it for sure is going to be live when this episode will be going out there. Thank you, bro.